Okay, good evening, folks. I'm making just after 6. Welcome to EDML 8429, the summative assignment, national support session. It's Carl on this side. As always, there's my email address. If you ever have a question, please feel free to email me. If you've recently emailed me, you would have seen there's a bounce back message. I'm stuck at home. I've had a knee op. I'll probably be at home for another 2 or 3 weeks, but I am behind the computer. And if you send me an email and you've got a question, just make sure to put EDML 8429 in the topic line so that I know it's one of the students trying to contact me, and then I'll try to give it attention as soon as possible. And if I don't get back to you within 24 hours, as always, please send me a reminder, say, hey, what's going on? I'm a student, I need your attention, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Yeah, there's somebody acting in my position at work, and that's why I've got the auto message on my email just to say I'm probably not going to get back to you, but I'm still responsible for all my students. Okay, guys, so we've got to the end. One more assignment to go. I've finished marking all the second assignments. There are a lot of you, and they are long assignments, so they do take a while. Nothing to be overly concerned with. I know there's a number of you that weren't happy with your marks in the first assessment. Pretty normal for this subject. Second assessment, typically for most people it goes a little bit better, and by the third one they're creaming it. Mostly because this subject is a bit different to your other subjects, and many of you don't have a background in the legalese and the managerial side of education. Anyways, so let's have a look at this assignment. It's not a true summative in the sense of a POE building, and then you've got a summative that takes everything, but it does touch on a lot of the things. As always, there's a little intro, it's the admin part of it. 3rd of June I have as the hand-in date, which is not far away. According to the PAS I have, that gives you about 10 days round about there. It's thankfully on a Monday, so you do have that last weekend to push. The hand-in date at time, as you know, 23:59, late is late, 15% off if you're off that time. And don't do that to you. I've seen students doing this, and it really hurts. That 15% is a banger. You know, that's the difference between a 65 and a 50. And if you start going below your 60s, it starts really, really hurting. There's 3 questions, a 50, a 20, and a 30 mark question. They are interesting. And when we talk about the questions on the next slide, I'll show you something that I find, well, I'll tell you about what I find slightly weird about this paper compared to the other 2. And remember, if things go pear-shaped, take screenshots immediately, log a ticket, etc. I can't help you. I can only, let me know the next day. I'll see what I can do. With one of you, we've just had a long drama that I've also been fighting behind the scenes. Now you've got to ask a difficult question. I think it was, who was that? Gerard asking it. 40%. Thanks, Linda. I wasn't sure, but I know it is heavy. I was just about to check that as Gareth. Referencing in-text, reference list, direct quotes, all of that seems to be, you guys are sort of on top of it. Copyright plagiarism, this time I didn't have any problems in the second assignment. The one thing I do want to talk to you guys about briefly is the sources. I'm seeing students writing now. We have a bit of a contradiction here. Because of the subject matter, the laws and things we're dealing with, like the key one we'll deal with now is, what was that, 1997, the Higher Education Act. We're dealing with laws that are old. But now I'm finding that a lot of you are using sources that are old. So I'm seeing sources of the early 2000s. That's 20 years ago. Things have changed. This is a dynamic field. So please, guys, when you start looking at your sources, please try to jack them up. Look for sources when you in Google Scholar or whichever tool you use. Try to look for sources that set it up so it looks for sources. Try not to go more than 5 years, unless it's of course a really important source. And one of those sources that you just can't leave out. If you're going to talk about Maslow, you've got to use Maslow, and that was what, 1967, I think it was. But unless it's that seminal source, guys, please try to use more recent sources. It immediately places you in a different level if you're using sources recently. I must say I was very impressed with the previous assignment. I think there were a handful that had less than a page of sources, and I checked the sources. I go in and I check. You'll see you'll get a note from me if I thought you were messing around with your sources. But I do check the sources. There were people with 3, 4, 5 pages of sources, which is what we're looking for at this level. This is what we're talking about, guys. Okay, enough of Carl ranting and raving. Let's have a look at what you need to do. So you need to answer these 3 key questions. For previous assignments, I've always said to you, I have concerns, and this is the anomaly with this assignment. I have a concern that you're not going to be able to get it into the space. 2,000 words, 2,500 words. And I've broken it down and said, you do this, try to visit. With this assignment, I've just gone mad. It's 5 pages here, 4 pages there, 3 pages there. It's really, they've given you a lot of scope to write and so on. You should fit it in comfortably into the length they've given you. Don't try to chase the length. You're going to start talking nonsense. I've found that when students try to fill pages, they elaborate and they go into things that are not necessary, and it actually costs them marks. So please jump through the hoops that you have to jump through. But don't jump through that hoop, I must get to 5 pages. If you've covered the work that you've got to cover it, move on. Okay, so the 3 questions. A comparison between a public and a private higher education institution in terms of meeting the Higher Education Act that's the one I was talking about, of 1997. The second one is, and don't worry, we're going to go into a lot more detail. I'm going to go into details with this now. The comparison of leadership styles available to higher education institutions. Obviously, you can see, if you just look at that question, that thing, you can drive a truck in it, make a U-turn, and drive straight out of that question. That's a massive question. But I've got a way in which we'll approach that, and then evaluate the management of quality at SS higher education institution against international trends. So those are the 3 questions. Obviously, I'm going to break them down. So let's go have a look at that first one, dealing with the Act. So what they want you to do is they want you to go find a private higher education institution and a public one. Now, that in itself is difficult. You've got to go scratch around and look for those that have got enough information on their websites. So you've got a source to reference against, so you can tell me where you're getting the stuff from. Not that you can say, oh, I know the institution that I work for, we do X, Y, and Z. That's not a referenceable thing. So go, if you work for an institution, as most of you do, if there's information publicly available, yeah, sure, go use it. But be careful what you use, and that you're not using information that's not supposed to be in the public domain. So use stuff that you can reference. So you start off and you go look at the Act. And the preamble of the Act pretty much gives you what the Act is about. If you do a straight Google search, what is the purpose of the Higher Education Act 101 of 1997? It comes up with, I think it's about 8 bullets. Look at those and look what of those suit the context of this question. But be careful. There's a stack of amendments. I think we're at amendment number 9, probably, maybe 10 already. Scan through those amendments and see what those amendments do. You don't have to read through the whole amendment. Some of them are quite lengthy, but just the introduction to the amendment will tell you, and sometimes it's very, very technical. Dump it. You don't need to look at it. Sometimes it's really a difference in what the intention of the act is. And then you might want to include it. So then those two, private, public, you introduce them, give a little bit of a background, just say who and what they are. Guys, paragraph, 5 lines, 8 lines. You don't have to go into detail, but just so that when I read this, I understand where it comes from. Because some of the publics in general, we know where they're at, but some of the privates are really small. I'm not going to use the word obscure, but unknown to me. And it helps if you say, this is what this one's about, just so that I understand when you start arguing what you're saying. I'm asking you to look at procedures. Guys, please, when we talk policies and procedures here, I'm talking about high-level stuff. I'm not talking about how they administer leave, right? It's the high-level, the strategic, directional stuff that they're trying to do. And those are the things that they'll show you on the website. Where they're similar, where they're different, and how does this all link up with the Act? Obviously, you need to have the evidence I've said, find, reference, etc. Before I get to that last bullet, 5 to 6 pages, 11-point aerial, 1.5 spacing. I know there's people that want to do it 12 and times in a row. This is my suggestion. This is what the assignment says. So please try to stick it around there. Let's not go too far. And don't see 5 or 6 pages as a target. Do what you need to do. Get it over and done with. This is half of the assignment. Here's the kicker. That last bullet. Any format. I've never seen an assignment. I've obviously dealt with this assignment before, but I've never seen an assignment that does this. They go through the whole drama and they tell you everything. And then they say to you, and they talk to essays and everything, and then they say, but you can do this in any format you like to do this. I've never seen a student to have the guts to do this, but you're more than welcome to hand in a presentation. In other words, a slideshow with a voiceover. They literally say to you, you can do anything you want to. So if you want to go for it and do something different, please feel free to. I would probably find it very interesting to see what students can come up with. If you want to write an essay, a 5-6 pages essay, go for it. You won't get penalized. But they do give you the option here to say any format. And as I say, I've never seen it. I've always had them, even at a postgraduate level, dictate the format. So that's a bit of an interesting one. There's a gap there. Decide, do I want to make do I have the time? Time is of the essence for all of us. And do I want to make that effort, or is my path of least resistance? Write an essay. Up to you. Question 1, questions, guys. Anything you want to ask, anything you want to say, anything you want to add to that? Please feel free. Yes, you can, Gareth, put it in the template, but hold the template idea until I get to the next question. But yes, they allow you to do that, so you can do anything that you want to. Anything else, guys, or are we at that point of the semester where guys are just saying, God, I'll just get through this, please. We're over it. I know many of you are busy with your research projects, and that does lead to a bit of fatigue this time of the semester. Okay, I'm going to move on. I'll give opportunity for questions right at the end again in any case. So question 2, so that was a 50 marker. This is a 20 marker. Comparisons of leadership styles available to higher education institutions. Guys, there are books on leadership styles where they'll discuss 30, 40, 50 different leadership styles. My suggestion is select 3, maybe 4 leadership styles that you think are really appropriate. Your module guide gives you them. VC Learn tells you which ones are the normal ones. I don't want you to use 6, 7, 8 styles that gets messy. Choose 3 or 4 styles, put them into a table. Gareth, this is why I said just watch out for that template thing. Put them into a table, have the 3 styles at the top forming 3 columns. On your far left-hand column, choose the descriptors. the points you want to compare at. Select 4, 5, 6, 8 points and compare these styles within the context of higher education, right? And see what are these styles about. I would always prefer the references in the text. I don't like references at the end. However, in a table, it's sometimes difficult. So I would write a little introduction, and I would say, to make it a bit neater, the information for the below tables have been sourced from blah, 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 blah. That's the easiest way to do it. It is better than doing it at the end. So set up this thing. They give you 5 pages here as a max. But the previous one is 50 marks for 5 or 6 pages, and this is 5 pages for 20 marks. See the anomaly there? But fair enough, a table does take a bit more space. If you go read, and guys, please never ever do any of these things without going to read the actual assignment itself. In the actual assignment, they also say, we suggest you use a table. They don't say you must use a table. Right? So you can have an essay. If you prefer that, you can have a style, discuss it, and move on to the next style and discuss it. I do want to see a conclusion at the end, which is outside of your table, where you then say, and having looked at these styles and having compared them, I would prefer to use this or that style. There's no right answer here, guys. There's a couple of things, a couple of styles that are a bit way out there, which I wouldn't suggest you use. You know, if you're going to be totally dominant and give instructions to people and not have any input from people or anything like that, I'm not sure you're going to convince anybody in this day and age that that's a great style to use. But you're welcome to use that as one of the styles that you're comparing. So go out there, but be careful of where you look for the styles that you select. Leadership and management, and I'm not going to go to the leadership and management debate, but leadership styles are in the realm of business, of the business world. And they work in the business world. Only certain of those styles work in the educational world and the higher educational world specific. I can tell you now, if I am a principal in a primary school, and I'm not dissing anybody who is in primary education. It's probably one of the most important parts of education. But there's a specific way in which I would manage that institution. If I try to manage a higher education institution, I will fall flat on my face if I try to do it in that way. Sorry, once again, because I'm on a different page, I'm not seeing the questions. I think it was Andile that asked that. So wait, let me just switch. Apelele. Apelele, minimum credible sources. Well, let's say we use 4 styles. Then you're probably looking at about 3 sources per style. You know, do the math. You can't just do one style. And when I've said that, then immediately I'm thinking it's going to look very strange in the intro if you just list them. So I would say in the intro, I would say, or I would even possibly, and I know this is not what we've taught you to do, I would even possibly do a footnote to say, for this style, I've used these sources, for this style, I've used this, and do it in that manner. But as I say, it is, if you can do it in the table, the referencing, it's always better. It might not be the neatest. You might always also find, and this becomes tricky, that you might want to flip the pages and do it a landscape rather than a portrait style. Or you might just say, look, a table is going to be a mess. I'm going to discuss my 3 things or 4 things or 5 styles, and I'm going to use just the same heading and then discuss the style. I'll use the same headings for each style, but I'm going to write it in paragraph. It's really up to you. But yeah, I would like to see at least 3 sources per style, because here's the problem with using one source. If you use one source to describe a style, or anything for that matter, and that source gets discredited, all your work is immediately discredited. If you're using 3, 4 sources to discuss a point, if one source falls away, there's still the other sources. And it's unlikely that a source will fall away or a source will be discredited if there are 3 or 4 other people saying the same thing. I'm not saying crowds are always right, but yeah. Okay. Anything else on question 2, guys, before I move on to the last question? Anything else you want to ask me? Okay, cool. Thanks. Let's move on to the last question. Gareth, I'm not going to say you must have 4, but you can't have 1. Let's say if you have 3 or 4 for each style, yeah, you're going to be fine. But just don't come with 1 style. And please don't have 4 references and you use reference 1 for all 4 styles and reference 2 for all 4. Mix it up. So you're looking probably, if you want a number, you're probably looking at between 12 and 15 sources for this question to have a well-researched, well-motivated question answer. Okay, moving on. Question 3. Evaluate the management of quality at South African higher education institutions against international trends of the Times Higher Education Supplement. So the Times Higher Education Supplement is a supplement that's brought out by the London Times once a year, and they measure higher education institutions against the 3 key outputs of higher education. So what you need to look at is you need to say, how do they measure? Against what do they measure? Brief description of how do say universities rank, and then how do we in South Africa measure quality in higher education, and how does our quality measurements measure up to their quality measurements. This is a 30-mark, 4 pages question. This is normally a question that students struggle a bit with because it's got a lot of dimensions and so on. But basically the key thing is higher education in South Africa in the world is judged by the Times Higher Education Supplement. It's seen as an authoritative supplement. How do we do in that? And do we actually measure ourselves against that? Or how do we measure in South Africa? And should we measure ourselves against that? Given the context of South Africa, given the context of Africa, given the uniqueness and the problems that we struggle with that an Oxford or Cambridge would not struggle with, how does this play out? And once again, there's no real right answer here. It's how you motivate, how you discuss, where you go with this. But you'll find the Times Higher Education Supplement quite easily. I don't know, I can't recall now if 2024 is out. If you can't use 2024, use 2023. The ranking is not the key thing. It's how they measure what they do, and then how do we measure? Who measures us? And how do the two compare? And is this comparable? And is this is one justified then to say what they say about South African universities? 30 marks, and that's it, guys. So please, questions on question 3 or on any of the other questions. And this should have, I don't know why this didn't go out. Sorry, I deleted that because there's no later in June. That was from a previous one. I'm happy to answer questions. Strange that that stayed there. Sorry, I deleted that because there is no later in June. Last year it was a later hand. I think we handed in on the 15th or something like that instead of the 3rd. Any case, okay, any questions, guys? Anything else you want to know? Do you feel comfortable about this? Where are we at?
Hi, Carl. Can you hear me?
Sorry, Bain, my mic was off. Yes, Bain, I can hear you.
I was just wondering, is this our last class? Are we going to have any more sessions after this?
If you look at the timetable, I was looking at this earlier. So I was looking at the timetable. You guys are handing in this on the 3rd. My next scheduled class is on the 5th with you. What do we want to talk about? So for me, this is basically it, yeah.
Okay. No, I was just making sure. Thank you.
Cool. Something that I do want to check, when are you guys handing in your research project, the final project? I just want to see if I can get to that quickly. 13th, okay. Yeah, I've also got it around the 13th, 14th. That was, I was a bit concerned that it was closer to the 3rd. I somehow, I think I'm thinking about some of my 3rd years are handing in around the 5th, and I was concerned about that it's going to be too close to this. But yeah, that at least gives you another week or so after this being handed in to work on research. I don't think there's a recording on Learning Unit. I can't tell you if there's a recording unit on Unit 3 offhand. If there's a question that you have about Learning Unit 3 or anything specific you want in Learning Unit 3, ask me questions. If you look at the if you look at the way the classes are structured, so in the past I was allowed to structure my own classes, and I could structure classes. So sometimes I would have classes 3 weeks in a row, so I could deal with every single part of the theory. This year, because online's growing, online determines the classes. So I may only see you every second week. And if you look at your PAS and you look at the dates for the hand-ins, it works out that you hand in virtually every 3rd week. So it works out in this way that I end up not doing every single learning unit. And it is part of, as you know, part of the online style is that we don't deal with all the work. We do highlights, and there's work that we don't deal with. So yeah, Learning Unit 3, if there's anything you want me to explain, I'm happy to explain it. Send me an email. But yeah, I haven't had a class on Learning Unit 3. Guys, anything else? Or everybody, I see there's a couple of guys already saying, no, I'm fine, we covered. Anything else that you need to ask me? And please, as I said, feel free to email me if there's anything after this. But if everybody's covered, I just want to say thank you to you guys. You guys have been an exceptional group. I've done this course now, I think, for three years or 4 years. Okay, wait. Question 3. How many? Whatever you need. I'm not going to say 5 or 10 or 2. Whatever you need to cover those in. I don't have a prescribed minimum number of sources for question 3. But as I say, up to the point, there's been great, people are using a lot of sources. Gareth, that's up to online. I will speak to them tomorrow because I want the marks to get out. And I'll find from them when they'll be able to release the marks, how soon they'll get them out there. As I said, I'm finished marking, so the marks should be going soon. In any case, what I was going to say is I've done this course now 3 or 4 years, and you guys have been the best class so far. Your participation in the online sessions and the questions and so on that you've asked has really made it fun for me. It's not always easy to be an online tutor. As a matter of fact, it's sometimes downright difficult. But it's been fun working with you guys, and the interactions I've had via email and so on, I've also found immensely entertaining, as well as those of you that I've been supervising. Yeah, your classes, and you guys have been lucky to be in this group. I think it's a very strong and a very good group, although very large. Okay, guys, that's me. Thank you very much. Don't disappear. Please ask me questions, email me, and so on. And for those of you that are, I think many of you are completing research projects, just a word on that. Get this thing out of the way as quickly as possible. Your research project is now entering the phase where you're going to be over it. Stick it out. The last 3 weeks, 4 weeks of the research project is what really makes that project really something worthwhile and makes it something good. If you drop the ball now, it won't be the greatest work ever. If you work for the next 3 or 4 weeks, even though you're so over it, it makes the difference. Any case, but get this out of the way as soon as possible. This assignment, you want to hit it on the head, get it out of the way so that you can concentrate on the other work that you have to do, which is going to take more time. Okay, thank you very much, guys. Cheers. I'll see some of you hopefully at graduation, but all the best. Godspeed. Cheers, guys.